In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the Clone Trooper Sergeant for the Black Series 3 3/4 inch line. He was figure number 2, or he was the second figure overall that was released in the Black Series for 3.75 inch. So I'm pretty sure this is one of those action figures that was supposed to be in TVC at the time, and of course it was canceled. Then it was moved to the Legacy Collection again, and then it ended up becoming the Black Series. I'm glad we've ended up getting this guy. He's actually the very first Clone Trooper I got in this TVC style mold. I actually didn't get any of the Clone Troopers at the time in TVC style until about 2013 or so, when this guy was released. So he ended up being the very first one I got at the time. Yeah, I got this for Christmas of 2013, so I think this guy may have been the very first Black Series action figure I ended up getting. Of course, I got a whole bunch of them at once, but I think I may have got to this one first, actually. So he's kind of sentimental for my collection, I guess. I've had him for 10 years now at this point, and I'm very happy to have him. He was actually the first Clone Trooper Sergeant I got in my collection. This guy here, the previous release of him, I actually didn't get until several years later. As you can see, there is a difference in the paint scheme for the green. This the more recent Sergeant here has a much darker green, kind of like a forest green in a way, which between the two, personally, I kind of like this lighter green a lot more. But this one, I think, looks good in its own way as well. It's a good way to add some variety. So there's really not a whole lot of uniqueness about this guy. I'm mostly reviewing him just to complete the set. At some point, I would like to try and complete the entire 3 3/4 inch Black Series line, especially the orange and black packaging. I really like that line. I know it had some of its own issues and it had a lot of repacks as well. But I think that was during the time when I was really ramping up my action figure collection, or it was during the time I was ramping it up a lot. So it's a line I look back on fondly, and I like to just try and complete it on the channel. So to this day, all we've gotten in this TVC style Clone Trooper mold is the Sergeant and the Lieutenant, and unfortunately we have not gotten the Commander or the Captain. And at this point, given that we have a new Clone Trooper mold on top of this, I don't know if we're ever going to get that at this point, which is, I think, one of Hasbro's biggest blunders for TVC that they've ever done, is not getting the Commander or the Captain out. I hope there's someone advocating the Hasbro, or at least keeping the bug in their ear. Hey, you still gotta get the Commander and the Captain out in this older mold. But usually Hasbro, more often than not, does not go back to re-releasing older molds in their lines throughout the years. It does happen every now and then, but rarely does it happen. The Captain and the Commander were supposed to be released in the Toys R Us exclusive Geonosis Jedi packs in 2013. It was the one that had the Commander Pons, which was the yellow Commander. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, last minute there was a running change with those, and then it ended up being the older style, which was this one, which there's nothing wrong with this. I still think this is the best Clone Trooper sculpt for Phase 1 out there, but it would have been nice to complete the set at least for this particular style. So that's a little bit of the backstory with that. Let's just go ahead and take a closer look at this guy. So he's basically a shiny. He doesn't have any weathering on him of any kind. And he's nice, bright and white, and doesn't look like he's yellowed at all through the years. And I hope he stays that way, quite frankly. So the green is nicely applied. It's not really smudged or anything, and it's very fine along his visor there, and it turned out really good. He does have the green dots on his chest there, green stripes on the rest of his arms, or the communicator there even, and his legs here, there's no green stripes of any kind. I do have a little bit of a thing with mine here, particularly in his left hand. As you can see, it's still sealed up there. I've never been able to put a blaster in his left hand here. That really would be an easy fix. All I'd have to do is just take a knife and kind of cut that out a little bit. As you can see here, it is an open palm there. It's just pretty much closed towards the top of his thumb and index finger there. So perhaps someday I will get around to that. I just never like getting into that type of thing because I don't want to potentially cut off his thumb or something like that. But at this point, I think I could probably do it. So perhaps at some point I will. I have seen that on clones every now and then where some of the plastic is still completely sealed over the hand. So he does have a removable helmet. Pretty standard for the face. At least there's no paint smudges or anything like that. So it looks pretty good. And you can get him to hold his helmet here if you wanted to. Without it popping out, I would hope. Looks pretty good like that. It fits over his head pretty good, and you can barely even tell he has a removable helmet. And it's not oversized at all. So it looks good. Articulation's exactly what we've gone over before. He's hinged in every point. The only one I'll really note here is his right wrist hinges in and out like that. Then his left wrist goes up and down, which I think it would have been better for it to be the opposite, but it's alright. In terms of weapons and accessories, at least Hasbro didn't go completely cheap on him. But there's really not a whole lot to say about these either. So he has his two DC-15 rifles, the shorter one and the longer one here. Which at the time, these were kind of a big deal for me because I didn't really have any of this style at the time. I had the older styles still, and a whole lot of them. So when I saw these, it was like, whoa. This is a pretty nice style for the shorter DC-15. The amount of detail in it is impressive. And of course, this one here is kind of flimsy, but it's not a bad sculpt either. And they are both just cast in black. I know this is the exact rifle he came with, but this one I'm not so sure. But I'm pretty sure it was the same thing. Maybe the one he came with had a little bit of silver paint on it, but I'm not sure. I think that may have been for the lieutenant only. Yeah, usually I have them carry the longer rifle here. Just kind of keep it on the side here. And here's what these two guys look like side by side. So obviously there is a height difference. And of course there is a difference in the green paint. The dots here are much higher up on this guy compared to this one. Overall, I really like both sculpts, though. I'm happy to own both. But yeah, that's pretty much all I can tell you about the Clone Trooper Sergeant. At this point, you've probably seen this clone so many times before, and I've touched on it the channel before anyway, with like the Troop Builder packs and the Lieutenant and so many other ones throughout the years. But still, would I recommend this guy for your collection? I would. He's very nice. It's Clone Trooper Sergeant. That's all there really is to say about it. As far as pricing is concerned, I don't think he's too terrible. It's been a while since I've looked at prices for him, but I don't recall being like, oh, that's way too much money for this guy. Maybe he's in like the $15 to $20 range or something like that. But still, it's Clone Trooper Sergeant. You know exactly if you want it or not. It's really hard to recommend it one way or the other. If you're a big fan of Clone Troopers, obviously this is probably a must-have for your collection, and I would recommend getting both of the versions of the Sergeant out there. There are a couple other ones as well, but these are probably the two main ones that people are going to want to pursue for their collections. And they're both nice. This guy does have a review on the channel if you want to check that out. So yeah, it's Clone Trooper Sergeant. Very nice action figure. It's been in my collection for 10 years now, and I cherish it greatly. But anyways, that concludes this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for plenty more reviews in the future. Always be lots more to come. If you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I always greatly appreciate all your support. Check out some links in the description if you haven't done so already. And as always, thanks for watching.